G'day there guys, still winning arguments I had in the shower 5 years ago. It's your main man Markee and welcome back to another episode of r/AmiTheA with updates. Now if you enjoy today's bloody good content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and just tell me what you think of every story down in the comments below. What are your judgments? What do you think? Who's the a-hole here? Keen to find out. Thank you. Posted by user TA Salary. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my boss I don't believe in loyalty and it's unreasonable to expect me to not quit for a better paid job? So I worked at my first job for 6 years. They trained me from ground zero on everything. I had a great boss who fought for my promotions, and in those 6 years, my salary doubled. Got an offer from a more prestigious company with better growth opportunities and double the salary. Edited, maths are hard. We're talking substantial money, 120k versus 250k. I quit without thinking twice and thought it was more respectful not to ask my boss to use any of his political capital to get me a match. He couldn't. Part of my new comp is stock in the new company, and the salary is likely more than his pay. So I simply gave him my notice and explained my transition plan. Boss was truly devastated and very, very angry. We both stayed professional throughout the discussion, but it got heated and he questioned my loyalty as if it's a character flaw. I said my view is I paid him and the company back with my hard work, so we're at the very least even. Arguably, they got a bargain deal because I could have jumped ship for more money 2 years ago. Should I have handled any of this differently? My wife and some friends say that I'm being rather cold and calculating. I should have shown more loyalty since the company gave me so much. I think it's disrespectful to assume I didn't give them anything less than enough in return. I know my worth and my contribution to the company's bottom line. I've seen people walked out of the door after 2 decades with a pink slip, and no one shed a tear the morning after. I respect my old boss, but what the hell is loyalty to your job supposed to even mean? You've made a good argument, and I'm convinced that this is a not the a-hole judgment. It seems that yes, he is offended, but if he's not going to be offended and upset at the pink slip treatment, it seems like his loyalties lie to the bottom line of the company and how much money he's making. If it means he can potentially get you back on board, obviously he's going to do every manipulation tactic in the book that he can so he doesn't lose the company money and in turn his own salary. I'm not on board with that boss's manipulation and what he's doing to you. You absolutely are more than welcome to leave the company. He's giving you even more reason to do so. So I can't fault you for that. Not the a-hole. And in the comments, Cadillac Blood says, not the a-hole. I was ready to say you're an asshole and give you the whole fine line between honesty and rudeness talk, but to be honest, I see absolutely nothing wrong with your course of action. You worked there, you did your thing and got a better offer. Let the boss know. When the boss asked why, you explained it to him. There isn't much reason for him to be mad except he got frustrated that you have more than 2 brain cells. Loyalty to the company doesn't mean you should turn down good career opportunities. It means not spreading, I don't know, company secrets or talking crap about your workplace and stuff. Between skill replies, company loyalty is a one-way street. Your employer only cares about it as long as it benefits them. In 99% of professional jobs, no company would hold your hand and sacrifice for the employee if they were struggling and hurting the team. It's basically just yet another way capital owners try to keep workers from making things difficult for them. Loyalty to your employer in our modern economy sounds like such a futile idea. Growing up, my dad worked for a pretty big company for about 20 years, but he got sick when I was in high school and was put on permanent disability. He passed about 15 years later, and when going through his affairs, I couldn't find his life insurance policy. I called HR at the previous company to see if it was possibly the same policy he had when he worked there. Turns out, it was because the company continued to pay for all of his insurance benefits and a few other things, even though he hadn't worked there in almost 15 years. A couple hours later, I got a call back from the CEO expressing his condolences. Apparently, he called my dad a few times a year to check on him, Not only that, he knew where I went to college, that I was a teacher, my husband's name, and that I was living out of state. This man had thousands of employees, and yet he was so good to my dad, a man who hadn't worked for his company in 15 years. He and his company are definitely part of that 1%. Yeah, that is great to hear. Just sad that it's always the exception and not the rule. Loudend2 says, not the a-hole. I've seen people walked out of the door after 2 decades with a pink slip. Yep, and your boss would have happily done this with you as well. You're talking about more than doubling your salary, and you usually only get that type of bump when you switch employers. My take is, if they wanted to keep you, they should have kept your salary competitive the whole time. I hope you did your due diligence though. More money doesn't make it a better place to work. And OP replies, thanks. In all fairness, I know for a fact my old boss would have fought for me, but agreed that if it was between him and me, for example, I'm the one walking out of the door. So I take the same approach. I'll put my family and our financial stability over him every day. The opportunity was too good to pass on either way. I'm fortunate to like my new team, but I was offered a job with a fang of my profession, so even if I need to be absolutely miserable here for 2 years and then jump, it's worth it to pad the resume. Don't think I'll need to do the jump though. And Faye Piper says, not the a-hole. I do think that you could have handled it better, just because this could bite you if you need to get a reference or something happens with your new job. This was one of those, you're right, but you shouldn't say it situations. At the same time, that's only a pragmatic consideration, and from a manners standpoint, you were fine. This is just old boomer mentality on your old boss's part. And OP replies, thank you. Can I ask you a blunt question, this being the internet at all? Do you see a way to handle it better without being disingenuous? I come from a very blunt culture, Russia, and had pretty honest communication with my boss. When I am asked, aren't you being disloyal? My first instinct is to directly answer the question as asked. I'm fine if it's viewed as rude or cold in the eyes of an American. Just curious if there's a middle ground that I'm not thinking of that would allow me to stay true to my character without hurting feelings. I think this may be an American thing, possibly just a your old boss thing, because you would absolutely not be asked this question by anyone I've worked for in the UK. Employers should expect you to look out for yourself. Loyalty to the company is ridiculous. They certainly wouldn't be loyal to you if it stopped suiting them. People have suggested making him aware you were looking would have been a good plan, but that could have put you at risk of being fired for a petty reason just because of his strange attitude. You need to look out for yourself when it comes to your employment. Obviously be a good employee, but turning down double your salary would be ludicrous. Not the a-hole. Huh. I saw you mention the UK and thought this was going to be a totally different direction. I sometimes wanted to pull my hair out when reading project requests from our UK colleagues. Email the length of a 10-page memo, and they never get to directly telling you what they want from you. Culture clash at its best. I can't imagine them asking a direct question such as, where's your loyalty, in the first place, to be honest. Thanks for your contribution. And now, update. Probably a bit mundane, but some folks wanted an update. Took my old boss out for a beer to not burn that bridge, as some of you have suggested. We sat in an outside pub garden for all the health-conscious Redditors. Both had a great time. A couple months helped us cool off, and getting together turned into a lot of reminiscing about the good old times together. It also got us talking, even more frankly, about the things that would be viewed too political if we were still employed by the same company. I think I may have kept my mentor in my life after all. I apologized for perhaps ending things with my old job too abruptly, and he said I couldn't have left at a worse time. But then again, there was no better or worse time to lose me, and to not sweat it. He says he understands why I took the job, respects my reasoning for trying to protect him from using up the goodwill that he built to save me as an employee and get me a match, and that giving him an earlier heads up might have given him more time to find a replacement, but that didn't make a huge difference at the end of the day. It's all water under the bridge now. The company already hired my replacement for about 25% more than I was paid. He didn't disclose the exact amount, but that was the implication. He was blunt I wouldn't have gotten that much even with the offer I had. He also said his priorities in life are very different, and he's happy where he is due to personal reasons and work-life perks, but that I need to seek what is the right answer for me. Said he's happy to work with me again if an opportunity presents itself, and I echoed that sentiment. Who knows? We may end up on the same team one way or another. A few things I took away from the Reddit discussion and our talk with the old boss. Look out for yourself. Your company is not the same thing as your boss. There are structural obstacles to fight against, and because you're loyal to one person doesn't mean the company as a whole feels that way about you. I don't regret my choice. Be good to people who are good to you and do right by them. If that doesn't go against number one. I wasn't a dick in my final interview and thanked my old boss profusely. It made a difference, but obviously he was still upset in the moment, which leads me to number 3. People are people. They are imperfect and have lapses of judgment. If you see them as such, you will find it easier to move on and move up in your professional life. Good luck you all, and thanks again for your input. Sometimes consulting Reddit does put a good spin on a trivial story. And in the comments, Merkmeister says, why do employers hire replacements and pay them way more than the original employee? That just makes no sense. Bluntly put, 2 different policies, retention raises and talent acquisition budget. For the retention pool of cash, HR will fight harder to not give people already hired a higher raise. There's an understanding, justified one by the way, that people will be happier with less and won't leave if they're already employed. For talent acquisition, the market dictates the salary. People ask for a premium to take on the risk of changing jobs, thus the company has no choice but to pay it or go without an employee. Which is why I often mentor young people, you must be willing to leave to get what you are worth. You may be able to come back in the future at a higher pay grade, but all too often it's nearly impossible to actually get what you're worth while staying. This is especially true when you were brought in at a super low rate. Haggis Hunter 91 says, my boss actively encourages everyone under him to at least go to one job interview every year. We'll even give time off to attend them, even if it's not a position in the same company. His reasoning is that it encourages people to think about whether they really want to be there. Seems counterintuitive, but his staff retention rate is the best in the company. Must be a confident guy in that his company provides competitive salaries and good work environments. I'm sure this only works if you're a top-notch employer in both of those areas. People may not want to leave Google corporate, but won't feel the same way about an Amazon warehouse job. Posted by user, Am I the A-hole throwaway cat door? Titled, Am I the a-hole for opening my roommate's door while she slept? Throwaway because my Reddit username is linked to me all over the internet. I promise the story isn't anywhere near as creepy as the title. So I, 22 female, have lived with my housemate Jane, 24 female, for about 5 months now. We get on pretty well, we cook together sometimes, only have minor house disagreements that usually get sorted really quickly, which makes me think that I've made a huge mistake here. We both own a cat each. They coexist happily, and the cats will sleep with either of us depending on their mood. But lately her cat, let's call her Fluffy, has only been sleeping in Jane's room, which is usually fine. The issue is that when Jane closes her bedroom door and Fluffy can't get in, Fluffy will meow and scratch at the door until she gets let in. She does this for hours. No, I am not exaggerating. She may take a small break for 5 minutes, but will go straight back to meowing and scratching. When I first brought this up to Jane, as our rooms are quite close, she just laughed it off and said that she's so used to it, she just sleeps through it, and she only closes her door to keep Fluffy out when she's being annoying and disrupting her sleep. She told me it doesn't happen that often, and I'll also get used to it. It's been happening every night for the past 2 weeks. I cannot sleep through it, and I'm woken up and kept up multiple times a night because of the constant meowing and scratching. I brought it up with Jane again, who just shrugged and said to ignore it. Last night was the last straw for me. I had to get up super early for an important work meeting and was already feeling unwell. So when Fluffy started meowing at 3:30 in the morning, I was at my last nerve and just opened Jane's door to let her into the bedroom. This morning, Jane stormed into my room and demanded to know why I breached her privacy by opening the door whilst she was sleeping, and that it was weird and creepy. I tried to explain that Fluffy was keeping me awake, but she said it was no excuse, and I had to get some earplugs or something, but that I violated her privacy, and it was not okay at all, and that I was an a-hole. I think she's being a tiny bit ridiculous. I didn't peep in or anything. I literally just pushed the door open, and also Fluffy is her cat. I just feel like it's inconsiderate that I have to lose sleep so hers isn't disrupted. But also a couple of my friends did say that it was weird that I opened her bedroom door. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? I feel like she knows she's in the wrong for doing this to you, but she's trying to strong-arm you into a decision which is ultimately screwing you over. And losing sleep over something like this, or just losing sleep in general, is, in my opinion, one of the worst inconveniences you can have when cohabiting a place with someone. A solution to this could have been she just leaves her door open and the cat comes in and out. I can understand the privacy aspect. You could always get a cat door in the door, replace the door with a cat door. So many different things that she could have done, but she chooses not to because she's trying to be an asshole. OP was kind of forced into this one, and I'd say that the lack of sleep is a good excuse for doing that. So I'm going to give OP a pass and say, not the a-hole. Stress Relief 375 says, not the a-hole. What kind of wacko is okay with their cat crying at their door all night long? And OP replies, she's a heavy sleeper when it comes to sounds. I do understand why she keeps Fluffy out sometimes because she loves to climb around your head and knock things over. My cat does the same, but I just deal with it when he does it. You shouldn't have to pick up Fluffy's owner's slack just because you're more willing to tolerate it than Jane is. You deserve peaceful sleep too. She's acting like she's the only one who needs it. For a Lark 90 says, not the a-hole, and she's being a bad roommate by laughing off the noise the cat is making at night. Instead of you getting earplugs, maybe she should put a cat entrance flap in her door, and replace it when she moves out. You weren't being creepy at all, and if she doesn't get that, there's something wrong with her. And Bunch of Bunches says, not the a-hole. Your roomie is gaslighting you. She's dismissive when it comes to your sleep, a fundamental pillar of physical and mental health. That goes under the shamelessly disrespectful category in my book. She's shown her true colors here, I'm afraid. That's what I was thinking. First 5 months sounded okay, but this is probably not a spontaneous slip-up. Roomie is likely going to behave like this 100 times more in the next 2 to 3 months. And OP replies, honestly, it's so weird. I've never gotten an off vibe from her in any way for the past 5 months, and that's why I'm wondering if I'm an a-hole. To me, it seems like such a tiny thing, but to her it's like the world's ending, and I've never seen her this upset. And Mary Pies 78 says, no a-holes here. Your roommate's kind of right, you shouldn't have opened the door. You would probably be upset too if the roles were reversed. I would apologize and tell her it won't happen again. Next time, don't open her door. Just respect her privacy and pound on her door until she comes and lets the cat in herself. She'll appreciate you not opening her door again, right? When she complains, ask her how else should the problem be resolved. And OP replies, I personally would not care if she did that to me, but I know everyone has different boundaries. But pounding on the door is a great way to respect her boundaries. You aren't opening the door, you're simply doing what her cat is doing to you, interrupting sleep at all hours of the night. The problem should be fixed shortly thereafter. And now on to the update. So, my original post didn't get that much attention, but things took quite a bit of a weird turn, so I just wanted to update. The only reason I thought I may have been the a-hole was because a few mutual friends of ours said that I was. And when I spoke to my closest friend about it, also friends with Jane, she said I was an a-hole, but it wasn't my fault, and I should just talk to Jane. I felt like I was in Crazy Town, but texted Jane so that we could talk the day after that I had made the post, and it turns out the issue wasn't the cat at all. I sat her down and told her that I was sorry for opening her door, and I'd never want to make her uncomfortable, but that Fluffy was her cat, not mine, and there was no way I was going to continue to be kept awake, and my sleep was important too. And frankly, she was being selfish. And to my surprise, she just burst into tears. I immediately reached out my hand to comfort her, and she snatched it away. She eventually calmed down and managed to tell me what was happening. Basically, she has feelings for me, and thanks to all the fun Reddit relationship stories about housemates and roommates suddenly falling in love over quarantine, she was awake when she heard her door open, and she thought it was me coming in to confess feelings towards her, or for a cuddle or something. I honestly didn't know how to react. It was so bizarre, and I felt so blindsided. The reason why my friends were telling me that I was the a-hole was because they all knew how Jane was feeling. I had to gently tell her that I was very straight, and I didn't reciprocate the feelings, but I appreciated her honesty and her friendship, and I hoped that we could move forward. This didn't go well. Jane ran into her room and immediately locked the door. I had no idea what was happening for the next week or so until I came home one day from work and everything of Jane's was cleared out. She left me a note saying she'd paid me out for the rest of the year, but she couldn't handle being in a house with me and thanked me for being a good stepmom to Fluffy. I'm pretty devastated, honestly. I think Barry, my cat, notices that things are weird and hasn't left my side. I'm upset it had to end this way as I did appreciate her friendship, and I feel bad that I hurt her. So I guess I'll be trying to make the best of having my own space until my lease is ended. Thanks for all the advice in the first post, everyone. Just wish it had a better ending. G'day there guys, and that's the end of today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed it and were entertained by today's bloody good content. As always, I want to do a quick shout out and a thank you to all my channel members and Patreon subscribers. Your beautiful faces and names will be up on screen right now. Haven't forgot about you guys, sorry I was taking a little break there. So yeah, if you see yourself, give yourself a pat on the back. If you want to be on this screen, there's links down to the description below where you can sign up and help support the channel and all future projects that I'm going to be doing on this one. With all that said, I hope you guys have an amazing day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to. I'll see you in the next episode, and I do hope you enjoy it. Thank you.